Pronombres del sujeto, subject pronouns. Today we are going to talk about the different subject pronouns in Spanish. This lets us know who we are talking about when we say a sentence and also who someone else is talking about when we hear something or we read something. So we're going to start on the left-hand side here, and all of the ones on the left-hand side are singular subject pronouns. The first one is yo. Yo is used to mean I, that is the English translation, and I use yo when I am talking about only myself and there is no one else involved. The to form is one of the ways to say you in Spanish. It is important to remember that there are 4 different ways to say you in Spanish. The to form is the you that you use when it is informal. You're only talking to one friend or family member. This is also the form that kids and teenagers use when they are talking to anybody their age, whether they know them or not. The L form is used when we are talking about something outside of our conversation. It's not I or you, it is someone or something else. One interesting thing in Spanish compared to English is that they use the same word in Spanish to say he and it. So L is one masculine person or it is a masculine thing. Whereas in English, we distinguish between people by saying he or it. In Spanish, L is used for both. Ella is used to mean she or it. So now it is the same thing as L, but now we're switching it over to the feminine. Ella can refer to a feminine person, one feminine person, meaning she, or an object, it. Usted is the second way to say you in Spanish, and it is the formal way to say you. This is the way you use when you are talking to one person, but it is someone you don't know, or it is someone in authority, or adults, for example, use usted when they are first meeting people before they know them very well. So now we are going to talk about the plural subject pronouns. Nosotros is the pronoun that is used when I want to say we. So we would say we in English. That means that I'm talking about myself and I am talking about other people. In traditional Spanish, if I have a group that is all girls, instead of nosotros, I would say nosotras. This is only if I myself am feminine and everyone in the group is feminine. This is also the form we use if you want to say someone else y yo. Someone else and myself, that's someone else with me, which means I am going to use the nosotros form. Vosotros is the third way to say you, but this way is really only used in Spain. This is the plural informal, so it's the plural of the to form. It's used when you're talking to a group of friends, a group of family, and just like nosotros, vosotros, if the entire group is a girl, is feminine, you are going to say vosotras. Then we have the ellos form. The ellos form is they, meaning I am talking about more than one group, not more than one group, but more than one person or more than one thing. And that means that they are all masculine or they are mixed masculine and feminine. Now, this is traditional Spanish, and we're going to talk about some more contemporary ways to do this on the next slide. But the traditional way is using they as the plural. Ellos is the plural, more than one, all masculine or a mixed group. And just like with L, it could be talking about people or things. Ellas is the feminine form of they, talking about more than one person or thing where every single person in the group is feminine. And ustedes is the plural of usted. It is the fourth and last way to say you. In Spain, it is formal, and in every other country, it's the only plural they use. So when you're talking about plural, if you're in Spain, you have to worry about vosotros versus ustedes. But if you are in any other country, you're just going to use ustedes for plural. This is when you say you all, and you're talking to more than one person. Notice how I have set up this chart. You have yo, which is the singular, and that corresponds to nosotros, the plural. Tú corresponds to vosotros. Although, if you're in another country besides Spain, it is going to be the ustedes form. Él corresponds to ellos, ella to ellas, and usted to ustedes. And again, these are the traditional pronouns. And on the next slide, we are going to talk about what it looks like in a little bit more contemporary language. Bueno, as promised, it is time to talk about some contemporary language. So by nature, Spanish is a language that divides things into masculine and feminine. But in the past few years, people have really rebelled against that a little bit, and they have started using some gender-inclusive pronouns. And these pronouns are not official Spanish, but they are being used by people who need them. And it is really important that you understand that language evolves, changes over time, and that language almost always, the changes start orally by spoken language, and then eventually people come around and change the rules. So right now we're in that period of time where people are using these as spoken language, but the rules, the official rules, have not changed. The first one is ella. Ella is the singular they. This is talking about one other person, and it is gender inclusive. So remember, you have él for masculine and ella for feminine, but if you want to use the singular they in Spanish, you're going to say ella. In the plural realm, we have nosotres. Nosotres is we, talking about self and others, and nosotres is used for mixed groups. So people have really started to rebel against this idea that all masculine and mixed groups are the same thing, which is what has happened in Spanish for a long, long time, hundreds of years. So nosotros, for hundreds of years, has been used to talk about all masculine and also about mixed groups. And now there are people saying, hey, why are we using the masculine form if there are feminine people included? And so now we are starting to see the usage of nosotres. Vosotres is the same thing for that you plural used in Spain, remember? All right, same usage as nosotres for mixed groups. And then we have ellas. Ellas is they, plural, gender inclusive. So again, this could be a mixed group. Sometimes you will see these as nosotros with the at symbol, or nosotres with the X. Most people are starting to change over to using the E simply because the others are really unpronounceable. So if you see those, you would pronounce them with the A, just like we have seen. And this happens with the vosotres and the ellas as well. So now let's talk about regular verbs and how we use our verbos regulares en español. There are three types of regular verbs: AR, ER, and IR. Now, it's important to remember that all verbs in Spanish end in AR, ER, or IR, and not all of them are regular, but most of them are. So most verbs are going to follow these rules. They have a pattern for their conjugation and for their usage. So when you use them, you know all right, how to use them because they have a regular format. You don't have to worry about some kind of funky system. It's very important for you to know the pattern. If you know the pattern, then you're going to be able to use your verbs and be better understood. So today we're going to talk solely about the present tense, how to use a regular verb in the present tense. And all of these verbs follow a similar way to go about using them. The first thing you're going to do is take off the ending. You take off the AR, the ER, or the IR. Then you're going to add whichever ending you need. So if it's an AR verb, you add an AR ending. If it's an ER verb, you add an ER ending. It's pretty simple. So, AR verbs. So before I start talking about these endings, I want to just make note of this X here. I am going to use the X in charts like this so that you know that it could be nosotros, nosotras, nosotres. All right, so you have options in terms of what goes in place of that X. But in a sentence, you should not be writing X. You should be writing O or A or E. So the yo ending is O. We know that most verbs in Spanish, the yo form ends in O. As, a, amos, ais, an. Now, you may not be familiar with the ais, and that is okay. I am always going to introduce it to you because you may see it when we are reading things in Spanish. And when we travel, often students will say to me, oh my gosh, Mrs. Rush, you were right. The vosotros form really is used a lot in Spain. So it's really important to be familiar with it and know what it is. So here's how this works. If I have a verb like buscar, which means to look for, I have my AR. And the first thing I'm going to do is take off the AR. And then I'm going to add my ending. And for yo, that's O. If I want to use the to, take off the ending, add as. El, ella, usted. Take off the ending, add a. Nosotros, nosotras, nosotres. Take off the ending, add amos. Vosotros, vosotras, vosotres, take off the ending, add ais. Ellos, ellas, ellis, ustedes, take off the ending, add an. So our chart looks like this. Busco, buscas, busca, buscamos, buscáis, buscan. ER verbs are very similar. You're going to take off the ER. The endings are a little bit different. Yo is still O, but then you have es, a, amos, ace, ain. So all you're doing is you have your AR endings that use A, and then you have ER endings that use E. Again, same concept. You have aprender, to learn. So the first thing you do is you take off that ER ending, and then you add your endings. So you end up with aprendo, aprendes, aprende, aprendemos, aprendéis, aprenden. So again, looks very similar to AR verbs, except because it is an ER verb, we're going to use E's in our forms instead of the A. Then we have IR verbs. IR verbs are very, very similar to ER verbs. The only difference is the nosotres and vosotres forms. So, O, es, a, just like our ER verbs, but imos and is. And then the ellas and ustedes forms are en. So you do need to remember that the nosotres and vosotres forms are different for IR verbs. Otherwise, ER and IR verbs in the present tense are the same. So again, if I take a verb, asistir, to attend, take off the IR, and then I end up with asisto, asistes, asiste, asistimos, asistís, asisten. These accents are really important, so do make sure you pay attention to where the accents are. Hopefully a lot of this is familiar to you. Even if you didn't learn a verb chart, you should be used to seeing verbs in sentences that have these endings on them. And we're going to practice more with these as well. Hasta luego.